In this video, we'll continue to explore the Active Directory integration of the Centrify User Suite. In the previous video, we've added an additional cloud connector to our infrastructure. This additional connector will provide us with the failover capabilities required for high availability. And from an AD placement perspective, you want to make sure that those cloud connectors are close to an Active Directory global catalog. So, good Active Directory design practices apply. One of the things that we also want to do is that by default, on the cloud service, the Active Directory cloud connectors are basically short names only. So we want to make sure that we modify those records to have the proper fully qualified domain name. Now let's go ahead and explore what happens when we have the Active Directory integration. For example, one of the things that I would like to do is to expand my list of systems administrators, which at this point is only the default administrator in here. If I wanted to add somebody from Active Directory, and many of you who have seen this demo before, this demo environment, know that we use kind of like a Seinfeld theme. Now I can search for principals that exist in Active Directory, and here effectively what I'll do to be consistent, I will add Jerry, who's the administrator. I'm going to give him system admin rights. We're going to go into roles deeply later, but one of the things that I would like to do is have the ability to have an Active Directory user access the portal. And another thing that happened when you created the tenant is that the portal was added automatically, and this portal has been granted access to everyone basically. So in theory, I should be able to to access this application right away with Jerry's account. So notice that I'm logged in here as the default administrator that was provisioned for me. I'm going to go and try ahead and launch now the portal with Jerry's account, and I'll do it with a different browser. Something that is important is that from a browser perspective and SSO perspective, we want to make sure that we are using proper. If we want SSO, we want to make sure that the browsers are configured correctly. So in my particular case, if I look at my IE properties, you will see that, for example, my intranet zone has my local domain, in this case corpcontoso.com. So I'm going to go ahead and try to log in to the cloud service, and notice that it's saying here authenticating to Active Directory, and this happened really fast. But if you look at the URL that I actually pulled, it said had the parameter of integrated Windows authentication as true. So not only you can get SSO to applications once you've gone to the portal, but once you're in the local domain, as long as there's a cloud connector, you will get SSO, because we will be able to negotiate the Kerberos ticket and make sure that, hey, you get a service ticket, therefore, you don't have to retype your credentials again. But again, that has to do if the browser is configured correctly. So I could actually go and try and launch this with Firefox, and I believe that I can cause this problem here. And let me see if I can try and launch the Cloud Manager, and you will see what happens. So although IWA is set to true and everything seems to be okay, this browser, I happen to know that is not configured correctly for SSO. So we want to make sure that browsers are configured correctly for this to work. So notice that I'm getting challenged here. Another thing that happened when that is important to know is the Cloud Collector configuration. So this is the applet that controls everything. So notice in here that it shows information about the tenant, like the customer ID, if the connection is actually working, and even if the the software is up to date, if auto update is set up. So if I look at, you know, some other settings, it is important to understand that, for example, you know, there's a refresh interval for the settings, and there's a refresh interval for validation of Active Directory objects. Again, the reason why the Cloud Collector exists is because so there's no need to explicitly synchronize attributes to Active Directory, right? So notice by that, by default, is every 10 minutes, and auto update is actually enabled. You can schedule this to happen in, you know, downtime times and days, and obviously there's some options for, you know, additional logging. So now I think that, you know, after covering the basics of cloud connectors, I think we're ready to start, you know, trying to add some apps and looking at roles and rights and policies. So I hope you enjoyed this video.